Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Surah Ibraheem, chapter 14, verses 13 to 21 will be covered in this presentation. These are the references, and this is our contact in case anyone has a query or a question. Recap so far. The previous verses covered up to 12. We will cover some of the salient points mentioned under those verses. The Quran helps us to come out of cognitive darknesses into light, where it enables us to see the reality of our existence in this world clearly. Historical accounts, as noted in the Quran, help us to understand the application of the permanent values and also point to the fact of establishing the system of deen, without which we will never be free from the fear and grief created by the unguided human intellect. Next is the universe is created to produce constructive results. If we look at it closely and intently, we will see its laws functioning everywhere. Understanding the functioning of these laws leads to gaining prosperities and successes of this life. Not being aware of these laws creates complexities in our existence, and hence we fail to bring out the good for the whole of mankind. Next is shukr and kufr are the opposite of each other. Manifestation of shukr leads to multiplication of the bounties of Allah under the system of deen. Kufr means to reject the guidance of the Quran or reject the guidance of Allah. The messengers of Allah were human beings and received wahi from Allah, and then they followed it. And they were human beings like each one of us. If they could follow it, so can we. To those who look for guidance, the paths to Sirat Mustaqeem become visible to them, and they become attracted towards the guidance of the Quran as a system of deen. Now let us look at the first verse of this presentation, 14:13. Unbridled power leads to the rejection of guidance of the Quran. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِرُسُلِهِمْ لَنُخْرِجَنَّكُمْ مِنْ أَرْضِنَا أَوْ لَتَعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا فَأَوْحَىٰ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ لَا نُهْلِكَنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ. Very interesting verse. At this, these people who used to reject the laws of Allah, that is Kafirin, said to their messengers that we are not willing to hear more. Either you quietly accept our ideology or else we will turn you out from our land. Because they were in a position of power and they did not like the guidance of Allah or guidance of Wahi. They imparted this threat to them, and their Rabb stated to them via Wahi, that is Allah as Rabb stated to his messengers via Wahi, do not be fearful, we will destroy these doers of injustice and transgression. So now this particular part of the verse is addressed to us. Note here Rabb, which means the system of Rabubiyat, which was being opposed or resisted by Kafirin. Opponents of Al-Haqq resort to extreme threats and punishments. Over here I've quoted some verses just to illustrate this point, that these people who oppose the message of Al-Haqq, they do this. قالوا يا شعيب ما نفقه كثيرا مما تقول وإنا لا نراك فينا ضعيفا ولولا رهتك لا راجمنك وما أنت علينا بعزيز. Now this is about Hazrat Shuaib. They said that, oh Shuaib, because Hazrat Shuaib was giving them the message of Allah. Firstly, whatever you say, many of these things do not fall within our understanding, because they don't want to understand it. And that is why it does not fall in their understanding, because their own desires, their own vested interests prevent its understanding. Hence the question to accept these does not even arise. Secondly, you are not someone holding power and status that we should accept it under compulsion. This is very interesting that they say that you are weak, and why should we accept? What are our benefits? What benefits we accrue, we get by following this message? That is in terms of material gains. The reality is this, that we merely have regard for your family. If they were not with you, we would have stoned you to death, and you could have done no harm to us. Very interesting part of it, that they were not scared of the consequences of the path they were following. They were more concerned about the relations, about whatever power the messenger had. So they were more concerned about the relationships and the biological connections around them. That is, their existence was at an animalistic level. And secondly, they are saying we will stone you to death. So this punishment, which is sometimes advocated by those who are following the sectarian Islam, stoning to death is of those who do kufr. So this is something we should keep it in mind. Next is innahum in yazharu alaykum yarjumukum aw yu'idukum fi millatihim wa lan tuflihu izan abada. These people of now over here, people of the cave, if we remember in chapter 18, Surah Ibraheem, there were Momineen who were fed up with the system around them, and then they decided to leave the place. People of the cave said that this precaution is essential because if people find out about us, then they are not ones who would leave us alone. Either they will stone us to death, very interesting here, or will force us to adopt their maslak again. And their maslak means their sect, their version of beliefs, which is non-Quranic. If this happens, that all our exertions will become like dust. And they knew, these Momineen knew that if they went on their path or their maslak, then they will lose everything in their life. That is, their self will be destroyed. We will never be able to see the face of success. So again, over here, 2 points come out, that they wanted to stone them to death, and or they wanted them to come back to their faith, come back to their maslak. قَالُوا لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِ يَا نُوحُ لَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْمَرْجُومِينَ. And the same was the opponents of Hazrat Nuh. They said, by providing teaching of equality to these lowly human beings, you are creating chaos in the society. Oh Nuh, if you do not desist from this path, then we will stone you to death. Again, the same threat is used, that we will stone you to death. So these are the things which we should keep it in mind, that when we give the message of Allah, because it goes against human-based desires, then they are going to oppose it because they think they are in majority and they have power, so they can do it. Now let us look at further explanation on this verse 14-13, pointing to the unguided human psyche. Here the Quran has drawn our attention to an important aspect of the human psyche which human beings display when they are in a position of power or in majority. They do not wish to hear any voice of reason and desire to use their force to silence it. We can witness this in today's world, where powerful governments threaten voices of reason with expulsion, imprisonment, and even take away the nationality of those with whom they differ. It is very seldom that people realize that this earth does not belong to any one of us. When we die, we leave behind all that which falls in the category of mine. Secondly, no one has the right to deny some place to live in this world. So on 2 accounts, I looked into it. 2 accounts, these guys are absolutely wrong. They have no right to say that what you are professing is wrong unless they have a reason, unless they can present any reason and some evidence. And secondly, they immediately talk of expulsion. This is a weakness of human beings. Even we have seen that children living in a house where if they differ with parents, the first thing parents do is, you get out of my house. And the husband tells wife and wife tells husband, whoever is in a position of power tells the other to leave the house. And this is wrong. Instead of concentrating on what value is under stake, what is being discussed, we immediately resort to physical power, use of physical power and abuse of physical power. On the one hand, we have a so-called rule of free speech, and on the other hand, we then look for means and methods to silence voices of dissension. I've tried to apply it to our environment in today's world. This is the darkness of the human mind to which the Quran directs our attention. Freedom of expression is something which the Quran has emphasized. Quran has very clearly said, La ikraha fid deen, you can express your opinion. And of course, it has to be based on reason, on evidence, and it should be truth, and should be conforming with the reality. It is required to know the intentions of people, and when people raise their voices and show concern, this contributes to human accountability. Another thing which is very important is that we should never silence people, never silence the free speech, because through free speech, people express their intention, people express what they have within them. And this is part of accountability, because if somebody hides it and we do not know what he or she has got in our heart, then we will know their intention. So in a society where law of requital is functioning freely, we should allow freedom of speech. Of course, that freedom of speech should be defined by values. People who are beneficiaries of an unjust system wish all others to conform to its relative value system, and any potential opposition is a threat, which is a fact. They never feel comfortable with anyone living among them who does not agree with their Muslim, that is their version of belief system and religion. They recognize the threat posed by the Quran. It is the fact that people who are not Quranic or do not wish to come to the Quranic, they immediately sense the threat posed to their way of living, the threat posed to their path. They do not think of the hereafter because they do not think there is a hereafter. Even if they utter through their lips, they do not are not convinced of the hereafter. They go for the immediate benefits of this life. As a consequence, they of course create problems of others. So if we look at their conduct and behavior, we will see that they create plenty of problems around them. Then Allah provides assurance to Momineen that فَأَوْحَى عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ لَنُهْلِكَنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ. Zalimeen, that is unjust people who do not leave the things at their proper place, cannot prosper when Jamaat opposing them stands up to confront their evil doings. So this is a great reassurance in this part of the verse for us, that we should, because if we claim to be on Al-Haqq, we are following the Quran, then we should keep doing it and never be worried or concerned about these things. 14:13, everything follows the law of Allah and its knowledge provides strength to Momineen. Some more points on this particular verse. There's a lot covered in this verse. In response to this, لِنُخْرِجَنَّكُم مِّنْ أَرْضِنَا, the Quran has declared that those who follow the guidance of Allah are not left alone and their efforts come to fruition at some point in time. Firstly, those who follow the path of Allah make their choice willingly based on the conviction of their hearts and minds. They dissociate themselves from the maslak of those who are not willing to come to the path illuminated by the light of Wahi. Because if we go back to their maslak, then of course the status quo will be maintained. The problems in the world, the injustice will prevail. Yateem and Mustaqeem will keep being created. So we have to go against them. It is not something theoretical that we just keep remembering the Quran in our room and we say we have done the job. We have to pass on the message to others so that those who think there's something wrong with the system around them can join up and then make an effort to change it. Secondly, they come together to remain united and enhance their understanding of the system of Deen in every respect. By declaring that فَأَوْحَى عَلَيْهِ رَبُّهُمْ, reassurance is provided to their hearts. Note the plural tense in this declaration. So by saying whom over here, the Quran has said you have to be together. It's not a one person's job. It has to be together. That is why messengers always raised a Jamaat of the willing, not the unwilling, willing. Towards the end of this verse, the Quran has emphasized the accountability aspect of the Law of Requital. We need to keep reminding ourselves that we are not in this world forever. We need to put in our best together on this path. Day comes and day goes, life goes on, and we know it that time passes very quickly. One Sunday to another Sunday, we have seen how quickly it passes. The issue before us is what have we done in the days between, so that we can stand up at least that we did our best, whatever we could. 14 verse, that's the next one. Human efforts made on the path of Allah never go wasted. وَلَنُسْكِنَنَّكُمُ الْأَرْضَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامِي وَخَافَ وَعِيدِ. And after destruction, we will settle you in their land. So Quran has continued from the previous verse and said that they will be destroyed and you will replace them if you continue on the Sirat Mustaqeem and remain united. And this will not happen because we wish to take your side and have enmity against them for no reason. All this will take place according to our immutable law. So Quran has made it clear throughout that everything follows laws. So if we get help by being on Sirat Mustaqeem, then it will be according to his law, which is we know is of Mukafat. And this is exactly what will happen in respect of every one of those nations that knows what the status is of the law of Allah in the universe and what the repercussion of going against this law is, and they remain wary of this repercussion. We have to remain very vigilant and keep reminding ourselves the law of requital is working, and if we keep following the path, we will get the results. Now some further reflections on this verse. Those who strive in the path of Allah with a view to helping mankind get rid of their visible and invisible chains will replace the existing exploitative system. Now this is a law. one can say that there is nothing visible, there is no visible portent or sign around us. That doesn't matter. The fact that we have come on this path and our hearts are getting united, that means law of requital is working, that the law of respite is presently also working, that there is always a gap between the time we make an effort and its results. The Quran has pointed to this fact at a number of other places. For example, Quran has said, we have gone through this verse a number of times, and it is important we should keep it in mind while we are striving on this path. In another verse, even the outline of the system is also defined. This is Surah Hajj. Quran says, Alladhina in makannahum fil ardi aqamus salata wa atus zakata وَامَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهُوا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَلِلَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ. That is, if these people get power, and they will get power if they keep making effort and remain steadfast and firm-footed. And what will they do? They will establish the system of salat. They will, and part of that will also be zakat, where opportunities will be provided for the development of the self. Development of the self is an essential part of deen. In fact, it's a paramount part, along with the material means of sustenance. And what they will do is they will promote maruf according to the Quran, and they will stop from those fosha, from wrong which people commit when they do not follow this path. And every matter of theirs, walillahi aqibatul umur, every matter of theirs will go back to the Quran for decision. The Quran has declared very clearly, based on evidence, that nothing in the world and the universe remains unaccounted for. And our task is to understand the functioning of the laws of Allah. When we acquaint ourselves with more details, our iman will become stronger. This knowledge is a prerequisite to the self's development to a very elevated level of understanding. Next point is, human beings only make full exertions when they are sure of their own success. And this is very important. We only tread on a path. For example, if we are treading the Sirat and Mustaqeem, we have to have an absolute conviction in it. And that conviction comes through our iman. That is the participation of our heart and mind. And of course, rejecting the non-Quranic system. If we are not sure of the results, then we do not remain focused and make half-hearted exertions. The Quran has reassured us repeatedly that Momineen are not left alone and that none of their efforts go to waste. Here the Quran is declared by stating a criterion that ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامِي وَخَافَ وَعِيدِ. That is, we have to keep in mind in our hearts that if we do not do this, then of course there are going to be problems. And these are those concerns deep down for yatim and miskin, for those who are deprived, who are being exploited, which should motivate us that this is the path which we must follow to get success and to replace this system. Those who always keep the consequences of their conduct in their consciousness. This is a very elevated state of human consciousness. And we have that potential to remain aware at a very high level of awareness and consciousness. We have got that potential, and we have thrown some light previously as well on this aspect. 14-15, individually our physical death will end our stay here. وَاسْتَفْتَهُ وَخَابَ كُلُّ جَبَّارٍ أَنِيبٍ. Consequently, those people did not accept through reason and evidence and desired that the decisive matter should be manifested before them. This is another thing that human beings say that, okay, you say that the punishment will come according to law of mukafat, go and bring it. As if it is a blessing, it is some kind of showering of flowers, of petals on them. It is not. So it arrived. I've seen people, they are living a very healthy life. They will not listen to the message. The moment some serious health illness comes, they are the first ones to ask you for prayers and for dua and supplication. And it unsettles them because death is a fact of life. And this body is not with us forever. It's not an eternal body. What we have eternal is within us. Its result was that every rebel and transgressor who had opposed the law of Allah remained a failure and was doomed. There are some points here. When we do not hold ourselves accountable and keep pursuing the wrong paths of life, a stage arrives where the results of our deeds catch up with us. The Quran has mentioned this aspect in many verses. We have gone through it in a lot of detail previously. At a collective level, when nations resort to injustice, We need to warn them of their path of life. In today's world, leaders of weaker nations do not carry out the task of forbidding evil and promoting good. This strategy may give them respite for a short period of time, but in the long run, when the destruction arrives, then it does not spare any one of them. Now, when we forbid evil and promote good, it helps to develop ourselves. We become conscious of it. We become concerned, and we warn others as well. Because in human world, things are quietly happening. When something wrong happens, the results are always there, though they are invisible. Same goes for the good. So the instruction for us is that we should never ever give up and continuously remain on the lookout to warn others and at the same time warn ourselves as well. And whatever solid deeds we can do, we should keep doing it individually as well as collectively. In any case, all of us have to die one day, and one can imagine the eternal loss of the life of the hereafter. There is nothing for those who lived life as if it will end with their physical death. And we can see the evidence of it. Just imagine and look at our own self, which has developed significantly in the light of the Quran when we use its criteria. We couldn't even think of these things which we are sharing now. And others who haven't shared it, imagine how backward their self is, how underdeveloped their self is. So comparing the two, one can see the disadvantage of holding back from the message of the Quran. Khaba, the word used over here is Wakhaba kullu jabbarin anid, and Khaba has appeared opposite to Aflaha in this verse. And we can have a look in these verses, two verses, and here it means the one who has suppressed himself. So nobody else has suppressed himself. He himself has suppressed himself, and he has become Jabbar, which is become tyrannical, unjust, like those people who were trying to turn away the messenger of Allah and his Jamaat of Momineen. And same goes for the word Anid as well, that these are the people who resort to injustice, who are essentially part of Zalimeen. The life went wasted due to evil deeds, i.e. made wrong choices in life. And nobody else does that. They make their own choices. When they are threatening others on Allah's land, on Allah's earth, while they have no right to threaten others, that means they are doing wrong to their own self, and they are transgressing the limits defined by Allah's laws. So next verses are 14, 16, and 17. I have combined them together. Human death is a fact of our existence. Becoming conscious of this is part of the self-development process. The verses are Mim varaihi jahannamu wa yuska mim ma'in sadid. Yatajarra'uhu wa la yakadu yusiguhu wa yatihil mautu min kulli makanin wa ma huwa bimayyitin wa min varaihi azabun galeez. So over here Quran says, and this failure and defeat was not temporary, instead it was a permanent hell which became stuck to them. In this life of humiliation, they received food and drink instead of receiving nourishment from this. It became an obstruction in the development of their human potentials. And Quran has given us a nice metaphor over here that if our physical side, if economic side is affected, then of course it is going to affect ourselves as well, because it will affect the environment in which we are operating in the world. They were conscious of this life of humiliation, hence they had difficulty swallowing their means of survival, but they had to consume it regardless. Because we got a body, and since ourselves being attached to our body and intertwined with its characteristics or its performance or attributes, we have to look after this side as well. And then whatever happens to the body, then of course it happens to ourselves as well. They could see the wherewithal of death all around them in every direction, and they desired that death should come to them so that they could become free from this hell. But even death will not come to them. Rather, instead of death coming, there was an increase in the severity of this hell. And we can see this around us across the globe. Oof, how chastising and life-threatening is the hell of humiliation and subjugation. So when economic deprivation starts through human hands, whereas there are more than enough means of sustenance on earth, then it affects ourselves as well. So we should never think that body, if body is being fed adequately, and it will not affect ourselves if we do not follow the values of the Quran, it will affect at some point in time, because it will destroy the environment, the peace around us. Graphical state of hell created through human hands. The Quran has used the example of the fact of human death factually as well as metaphorically. So Quran says that keep death in mind because there is a death, literal death, and there is also a death of nations when collectively people do not behave. And they create a system which is based on zulm or injustice. By stating this, kullu nafsin zaikatul maut wa inna tuwaffu fauna ujurakum yawmul qiyamah. See how over here the Quran has first stated that every nafs will taste death and then said that everyone will be paid back whatever they have earned. And on the day, when will it happen? When the results of their deeds manifest in this life and of course in the life of the hereafter. The Quran has factually told us the state of our physical body, i.e. after serving its purpose, this has to wither away under the physical laws. However, its death does create cognitive effects which are also referred to in numerous verses. The Quran has recognized the fear of this death. However, this can be eliminated by following its guidance, that is through Iman and Salih deeds. Next point is the hell which humans create through their deeds is in front of us, i.e. the effects which our deeds create lead us and manifest themselves as we tread through the period of respite. So while there is a period of respite, all results don't show up. Some results do show up partially depending on what we have done. For example, if we are bombing someone, of course, the children will die, the human beings will die, and those effects will show up in front of us. And if there is a reaction in that land, that will show up as well. But the sum total of those effects on the home country as well as on the country on which they are doing injustice will show up after some time. We meet up with the consequences of these deeds and will get surprised if we are not aware of the functioning of the law of requital. The life lived by many in this world is neither life nor death. Now, this is very important. If we look around, and this point we have discussed before as well, thrown some light, that human beings have certain latent potentials. If those latent potentials do not come out, do not manifest themselves, do not materialize in our world, that means that is the sort of death of those potentials. It's like this, that if we have a fruit tree and we have sown it, we have put it in the ground and planted it and does not bear fruit for some reason, then it hasn't really made its own manifestation successful in front of us because it never bore the fruit which it was meant to bear, meant to blossom or show us those results. Same goes for human beings. If each child is born with certain potentials and those potentials do not come out, and all those potentials are given in the Quran. In any case, if we are living this life thinking it will end with death, is no life. It's an animalistic existence. At least animals are not aware of their own death, but we are. So that being aware of that and being all the time conscious of it, that the life is going to end with death, that creates that desperation within us, that anxiety within us, that fear within us, that grief within us. We are not only scared of our own death, we are also scared of the death of those near and dear ones around us. And this is no life to live when there is a tangible solution for it. Since our life at the self level is going to continue beyond the death of our body, if we have failed to bring out its latent potentials using the Quranic guidance, then we will fail to meet the demands of the life of the hereafter. And hereafter, we should keep it in mind, is Allah's deen over there. The same deen which Allah is asking us to create in this world. The requirements of deen are clearly spelled out in the Quran for us in this worldly life. When we say of deen, it means the permanent values, the display of those permanent values. Of course, over there, the next life may not be a physical one. It might be a different one, which we cannot think of at this level of our understanding. But as far as the values are concerned, these will remain the same because permanent values don't change. These are the values of the universe. Not meeting the criterion of the hereafter will be a state of ourself in which we will find ourselves in a state of limbo, which cannot progress any further. But we'll have full comprehension of this inadequacy. And that is where the hell is. That if animals don't know what is happening to them, so it makes no difference to them. They just follow Allah's physical laws. In our case, we are aware of it as well. We are also aware of the deficiencies. We are aware of the regrets and disappointments which we have in our life. We are aware of the loss which we are going to have. And this is something which we should sit down and think about it. It needs a lot of reflection on our part that we are not coming back to this life again. The only route to come here is a biological route. And self once gets created, it cannot be procreated. And we need to make use of the time, whatever is left, before we are ready to leave this world. The self has become that entity which cannot develop further. The Quran here has pointed to this factual state of human consciousness by stating, Yatihil mautu min kulle makanin wa ma hu bimayyitin. This will make it worse, as one cannot come out of it, as there is no further opportunity available to rectify the situation. So Quran has said over here that they will see death coming from all direction, but they will not die. This is a very painful existence. When those people who even commit suicide in this life, if we look at it, their state of mind, that how disappointed and in despair they are before they decide to go against the instincts of self-preservation with others. And who has created those conditions for them? It is the non-Quranic system. It is the man-devised system which creates that anxiety, fear, grief, terror in the hearts of human beings. And when human beings feel undervalued, this is what they do. And this is something which we should become conscious of it. We should remain all the time conscious of it and think about it, because this is something which Allah is all the time aware of it. And since we are working on behalf of Allah, we are His companions as far as this world is concerned. That means if our Allah is continuously conscious of this, what is happening in this world, we also should develop that potential to be conscious of it. And this is possible, because the path which we are following, that path itself demands that we should be conscious of it. 1418, human efforts and deeds go waste if these do not meet the criterion of the Quranic value system. Matalul lazina kafaru bi rabbihim amaluhum karamad ishtadat bihir rihu fi yawmin asifin la yaqdiruna mimma kasabu ala shay'in zalika huwal zalalul bayid. And this is not a matter confined only to them. Whichever people set out on wrong paths by rejecting the laws of Allah, wherever they may be and in whatever era they may be, think of their deeds of life by the following analogy. For example, like flimsy ashes which are whirled about on a stormy day by a gust of wind, and all the ashes disappear, having been blown about all over the place, and nothing remains behind. So Quran has given a very good example over here, which we see in the physical world, that ashes, dust, everything is blown away when there is a very strong storm. And Quran says that those who do kufr, their deeds also go wasted like that, which is a fact. We can see that their self is not the same as of a mu'min self. Since their deeds do not establish any concrete constructive results, hence they go to waste. Just reflect what can be a worse simile than this of the futile and fruitless exertions of man. In life, we want our results, we want our deeds should have the best results. And if we want the best results, then we should look at the self, that how it develops with our deeds. If those deeds are in line with the Quran, we will ourselves have a very tangible effect on ourselves. Our self will know that it has done the right thing. And if it is outside the Quran, then we will know by the suspicion, doubts, fears, uncertainty it creates. 1418, understanding Rabubiyat includes comprehending Kufr and its functioning. So knowing about the Quran is not just knowing about Iman and Amal Saleh, it is also knowing about the forces which are going to oppose it and the forces which are opposing it. The verse starts with this, Matalul lazina kafaru bi rabbihim. Just concentrate on Rabb, Kufr and Rabb. What these kafir are doing are denying Rabubiyat. Those people who do not take into account the management of the means of sustenance for the whole of mankind, that is Rabubiyat, their efforts go to waste when these are viewed on a longer time scale, which includes the life of the hereafter, as life does not end with physical death. So consciousness of the hereafter must be part of ourself. That is our potential, which we are manifesting outside. At the back of it, hereafter must be part of it. In another place, the Quran sums it up by stating, "Ulaika allazina kafaru bi ayati rabbihim wa liqa'ihi fa habitat amaluhum fala nuqimu lahum yawmal qiyamati wazna." We have gone through this verse previously as well. Over here, what Quran has said is that those who reject the signs of Allah, who reject those signs which are dispersed throughout the universe. If they think that the universe is created aimless, it has no constructive meanings, then they are doing kufr. And by doing that kufr, whatever deeds they are doing, those have no long-lasting effect on their self. Their self remains deprived as if it never developed. And what will happen is on the day when the results will matter, no balance will be raised because there will be nothing to weigh. There will be nothing to put in the balance. So that is an important thing. Here by stating habitat amaluhum, the Quran has drawn our attention to another important fact that their deeds may seem very attractive, but when checked against the Quranic criteria, these will have no value. And we can see that. We have developed that potential, and we can see that using the Quranic lens that they do not have any value in the balance of Allah. We need to develop this potential to judge the actions of others around us. This is part of the development process of ourselves. And this is the system which is continuously producing deprivation, poverty, exploitation, slavery, and you name it, all those things which Quran has included under evil are here. So these are part of batil because these are not producing constructive results in the world. The metaphor used here is evidence-based, i.e. when a storm comes, all that is not well established is swept away. And we can see the flimsy foundations of the capitalist system. A bit here and there is making a huge difference in their stocks, in the currency value system, in inflation. And of course, they do it through their own hands because those who have created it, they have deliberately created it like that so that they can benefit. Under the system of deen, nothing will be swept away as it will follow the laws of Allah in every field of its conduct and action. Risks will be managed effectively. And of course, the risks will be from the outside mostly, from those who do kufr, who are mushrik. They are the ones who will be opposing that system because it goes against their vested interests. By declaring La yaqdiruna mimma kasabu ala shay'in, the effects of their deeds are beyond their reach. And we know it. The Quran has stated the factual state of the functioning of the law of requital. Our actions, once carried out, will leave their impact on ourselves and in the outer world. Deeds done under kufr take us far away from the Sirat Mustaqeem, i.e. making our return to the path extremely remote. Zalika huwal zalalul ba'id. See, by saying ba'id, it is taking these people far, far away. They are creating more difficulties and hurdles for themselves, and a stage comes where the Sirat Mustaqeem is not even visible. There is much to understand about the human psyche here. Now, 2 verses 14, 19-20, everything in the universe is based on defined laws. Over here, Quran says, Alam tara anna Allaha khalaqa samawati wal arda bil haqqi in yasha yuzhibkum wa yati bi khalqin jadid. Wa ma zalika ala Allahi bi aziz. And this is because the map of their life is completely opposite to the map of the universe. By reflecting on the system of the universe, this truth will become evident that everything in it establishes constructive results. See, Quran over here has used word tara. Alam tara means they can see with their eyes. It is not something that they cannot see. It is there right before their eyes. That khalaqa samawati wal arda bil haqq, that it has been created as haqq for constructive results. It's very precise, it's very accurate, and everything is accounted for. By reflecting on the system of the universe, this truth will become evident that everything in it establishes constructive results, and the thing in which this ability does not remain vanishes, and its place is taken by such a thing which possesses this kind of ability. Hence, say to them that if your deeds do not produce constructive results, then you will not be able to fit into the map of the universe, and Allah's law of the universe will take you out and throw you away, and will bring a new creation in your place. Beautifully summed up here that a new creation in your place, and this is being done right before our eyes. The old system it is on a conveyor belt system. If it is not constructive, then it is being replaced another one which is falling behind it. And it is not at all difficult for Allah to do this. And same goes for Momineen as well. They should become Aziz, and of course they have to be Hakim as well. so that not only they acquire power, they then use it according to the permanent values. Two verses needing a profound reflection. Over here, I've quoted two verses, one after another, and these are quite interesting. وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا إِن يَشَاء يُذْهِبْكُمْ أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ وَيَأْتِ بِآخَرِينَ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ قَدِيرًا. The system of Allah does not need the aid of any other helper, and the highs and lows of the universe are an evidence of this. So the way Quran has told us factually that this system of Allah is working without the help and intervention from outside. Allah has created it in a way that it is working and following the laws which are created for it to function properly. But the human affair is different in these meanings that other things of the universe do not have the choice for this, that they can go against the law of Allah, and man has been given this choice that if he wishes, he can adopt his law, and if he wishes, he can reject it. So in human case, while our body is following Allah's physical laws, in the case of our self, we can make choices and make decisions. And we, of course, use our body to make decisions because we have got intellect. And once we make the decisions, again, up to the point of decision, it is in our hand. But the moment we have made the decision, then it is not in our hand, it becomes external to us. Then the result of that decision will manifest itself at an appropriate time. So this is something which we should keep in mind all the time. If we want a better hereafter, a better life later on, for example, before we die, then we have to acquire Iman now and do solid deeds so that our hereafter is better than our present. We have done all this according to the program of our Mashiach, that is according to Allah's laws. Otherwise, it is not at all difficult that by eliminating existing mankind, which has choice and intent, we bring such an entity which keeps obeying unwaveringly the laws of Allah, just like the things of the universe. We have the power and control to do this. Very important point here from previous verse of Surah Ibraheem. I thought where it is mentioned Khalqan Jadid, that a new creation comes in their place. Then over here Quran has said that we can replace whole of mankind. It is not that we are bound by this, that we have to live with this mankind. In fact, whole mankind is getting replaced, because in any case through death, physically these people are going away. But morally as well, our own deeds are creating such an effect that if we have the ability to sustain ourselves and remain established, then our deeds, if these are in line with the laws of Allah, then we will get strength, have a balanced life, and our life will be free from fear and grief. But if there is fear and grief in the world, that means we are not following the correct path, the path defined by the permanent values. Better comprehension of the laws functioning in the human world is a need of the self. Here the Quran has drawn our attention to the physical evidence of the universe and the world around us, which we can witness with our eyes, and we can question its purpose, and then through empirical research come to this conclusion that all this is Al-Haqq and not Batil. It is meant to produce constructive results. So Al-Haqq means the constructive results which are in line with what is given in the Quran, which follow the permanent values, which are for the good of whole of mankind. As Quran has said, and we went through it in Surah Rat, that what is good for mankind remains on earth. So that is Haqq, Al-Haqq. Whereas Batil is which does not produce constructive results. In fact, it produces destructive results on a short term as well as on the long term basis. Implicit in this declaration is the seed for perceptual and conceptual knowledge for which man has been endowed with the faculties of seeing, listening, speaking, heart and mind, etc. By repeatedly drawing our attention to the outer world and to our cognitive makeup, Allah is asking us to justify our existence to our own selves by recognizing our latent potentials and utilizing these with a view to bringing out the best of ourselves. So just see, if we bring our best out of our own self, which we were not even fully aware of it in the light of the Quran, what a great feeling we will develop within us, what an incentive we will have, what a high motivation we will have. It will encourage us to go further and further, because the path of Sirat Mustaqeem will always have a better future ahead of it. And even if when the battle comes, the best will still be awaiting. So this is how we should look at it. If we fail to do this, then essentially we have failed our own self by not exploring the best within us. And in that case, we will not acquire those lofty heights for which we have all the necessary means at our disposal. We will fail to create a world where all our wishes as one mankind become fulfilled, and which will lead to the creation of that self which has the capacity to create more desires not yet known to humanity. Allah has drawn our attention to this fact that if mankind keeps following the path of man-devised system, then they do not have infinite time. So this we should be very clear that we do not have infinite time, that nations can keep doing whatever they like and nothing will happen. And we see the results. Of course, these things appear very slowly, gradually before us, and then they suddenly become a big revolution. As Batil has the seeds of self-destruction within its existence, and we can see those seeds of self-destruction. Because whatever human beings do, those come out, and by the behavior of the human beings, we can find out which side the majority is going. This is essentially for those of us who have come to the guidance of the Quran. Otherwise, those who are non-Quranic lot do not care about this. And we should keep it in mind that majority, it's not a question of majority or minority, it is a question of the permanent values of Allah. Our efforts should be to always 100% to follow the permanent values of Allah. Even if there is one person sticking to permanent values, he or she will be on Haqq, he and she will be on Al-Haqq, while others will be on Batil. So it is not about numbers which matters. What matters is Allah's values in the Quran, because it is Al-Haqq according to which results are manifesting in this universe and in this world of ours. 1421, the law of respite should be heeded. وَبَارِزُوا لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا فَقَالَتْ ضُعَفَاءُ الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا إِنَّا كُنَّا لَكُمْ تَابِعًا فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُغْنُونَ عَنَّا مِنْ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ قَالُوا لَوْ هَدَانَا اللَّهُ لَهَدَيْنَكُمْ سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْنَا أَجَزِينَا أَمْ صَبَرْنَا مَا لَنَا مِنْ مَحِيصٍ. At present, there is an interval of respite in which preparation for the final decisive confrontation is to take place. When this interval passes and will appear in the arena to confront the law of Allah, and it will be the time when the hidden results will materialize in a tangible form. Then at that time, the weaker people, i.e. the public who always follow their leaders, seeing this destruction will say to their leaders that we used to follow you. Will you not today produce some way to protect us from this destruction? It's an interesting state which is Quran has presented before us of hell. And this hell on this world as well as in the hereafter. They will respond that if we could see any possibility to protect ourselves, then we would also inform you about some kind of protection. This is what the leaders are saying. But now the state is such that we also cannot see any possibility of protecting even ourselves. Hence, what can we tell you? Now that time has arrived in which whether we continue on our path or abandon it, the outcome will be the same. Now there is no way out from this destruction. When the law of requital reaches its tangible state. Here the Quran has referred to an evidence-based state of the human world, and we can witness it all around us. Acquisitions and counter-acquisitions can be witnessed on our media channels which cover political wranglings. The party system is created in such a way that those in opposition are meant to keep on hurling accusations, even when the facts do not support this. This affects the psyche of every non-Quranic mind. So we should keep, we know it that whatever goes around and whatever we hear and whatever we digest and whatever we reject has an impact on our own self. If we make a diary of events taking place in one day, and by listening to on the media and by reading and by interacting, we can see how much effect it has on ourselves, and it becomes part of our memory, whether we are aware of it or not. We need to observe these wranglings on the word media very closely and confirm the functioning of the law of requital and the law of respite. This aspect needs to be used to educate and train our children, and this will help us to apply the Quranic values. Another important point here is about regrets and disappointments which the human intellect suffers due to wrong decision making in life. The Quran helps us to minimize these negative thoughts. When we make our decision based on the permanent values, and on the available information at a certain point in time. If it turns out to have an outcome which is not expected, even then it does not lead to regret and disappointment, as we did our best with the information available to us, and we did not go against any of the Quranic values. Important point here that in the case of Momineen, we should know that we are within the man-device system, where there is a very high risk in everything we do. Because capitalist system is an unpredictable system, it creates unpredictability and uncertainty deliberately. Whatever decisions we make within the permanent values of the Quran, if it doesn't go in our favor, let's say materially, then we should not suffer from regret and disappointment. We should be very clear that we made that decision with the available information at that point in time. If the things have gone wrong, it is because of the system around us. Regrets and disappointments come when we go against any of the values of the Quran. The seriousness of our existence in this life takes time to sink in our hearts and minds. Towards the end, the Quran has pointed to this aspect of our life and has invited us to value our time here and not to waste it by living life outside the domain of the permanent values and the divine attributes. And we, as we know, we should manifest divine attributes and then remain within the permanent values with as much allowed by the system around us, but be fully cognizant of what will be the state in the system of deen. In today's non-Quranic world, we can see that every sign noted in the Quran, which is in relation to Iblis and Shaitan, is glaringly obvious to our eyes as an evidence. If despite this we wish to remain willfully blind, then the loss is ours. So what is reported in this verse, we should keep it in mind that we should not be part of this wrangling which is going on between leaders and the followers. Because we are neither the leaders nor the followers, we are in a different category of human beings called Momineen, and who are falling within the permanent values and do not anyway get involved intellectually in this wrangling which is going on between the two. And this is only possible if we dissociate ourselves from the political system around us while being fully aware of it, that what is happening there. We should stop complaining about the ills of the man-device system, start getting busy with the successes of the capitalist system and forget about the hereafter. So what I've done over here is that if we want to remain willfully blind, then we cannot complain about the system in which we are living, because complaint means that we have to take a different path. And if we take a different path of the Quran, then Quran provides us reassurance of the system of deen. And if we work on it, then we will know that success will come on our path if we keep pursuing it. And if we remain united, unite our hearts and keep following its values and keep understanding what is given in the Quran. And that is how we have to proceed. Thank you very much. It's the end of this presentation, and thanks for your time.